The sun was beginning to dip behind the city skyline, casting long shadows over the quiet streets of downtown. Steven Seagal walked calmly, dressed in a simple hoodie, sunglasses shielding his eyes, and hands tucked into his pockets. His steps were unhurried, his expression unreadable, just another man taking a late afternoon stroll. But tonight, the ordinary streets were about to become anything but ordinary. A group of local bullies, teenagers with too much bravado and too little sense, were hanging out near a corner convenience store. They spotted Steven, and something about his silent, steady presence caught their attention. "Who does this guy think he is?" one whispered. Another snorted. "Bet we can teach him a lesson." They approached him with swagger, smirking, ready to intimidate. "Hey, old man, lost or something?" one called out. Another shoved him lightly, testing his reaction. Steven didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at them calmly, as if studying their behavior. The silence in his eyes unnerved the bullies more than any aggression could. Nearby, a few bystanders noticed the growing tension. Phones were pulled out, the subtle buzz of recording devices filling the air. Some whispered among themselves, wondering why this man was not reacting to such blatant disrespect. Others shrugged, assuming the group of bullies would soon disperse. The bullies laughed, convinced that their victim was an easy target. They circled him, trying to provoke a reaction. One of them said with a sneer, "What's the matter? Cat out your tongue." Another pushed him harder, and this time Steven's eyes finally lifted behind the sunglasses. A calm, cold intensity met their challenge, an intensity that sent a shiver down the spines of anyone watching. Steven's posture was relaxed, but every movement was precise, measured. He didn't need to shout, to fight, or to threaten. Just standing there, observing, he radiated a presence that made the bullies pause, though they didn't realize why yet. The crowd held its breath. Everyone watching felt it. Something was about to happen, something that would change the dynamic completely. They had no idea who they were messing with. The bullies' laughter grew louder as they encircled Steven. "Come on, old man, say something," one shouted, shoving him lightly again. Another jabbed his shoulder, trying to provoke a reaction. But Steven remained calm, his body relaxed, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, giving nothing away. To any casual observer, he looked like an ordinary man, unassuming, maybe even frail. Nearby, a few bystanders started to notice the tension. Phones were lifted discreetly, cameras recording every second. A young woman whispered to her friend, "Why isn't he reacting? Most people would already be yelling or fighting back." The bullies, sensing hesitation, misread it as weakness. "See? He's scared," one said, smirking. "Let's show him who's boss." They moved closer, closing the circle. One of the bullies kicked at a trash can near Steven, sending it clattering across the pavement. He laughed. "What's the matter? Too old to fight." But still, Steven didn't move. He didn't retaliate, didn't even flinch. His calm aura was unnerving. The crowd of onlookers grew larger, whispers rippling through the group. "Who is this guy? Why is he just standing there?" Then one of the bullies, growing bolder, took a step forward and raised a fist. The tension skyrocketed. The surrounding air seemed to thicken, the city noises fading as all eyes focused on the confrontation. Steven's hand barely twitched, and yet there was a subtle shift in his stance, a barely perceptible adjustment, but enough to radiate confidence and control. The crowd gasped, sensing something about to happen. Phones captured the moment, some in slow motion, as if instinctively anticipating the coming action. The bullies laughed nervously, unsure why this man still seemed so untouched, so unshaken by their aggression. Steven finally spoke, his voice calm, almost soft, but carrying an unmistakable authority. "Do you really want to do this?" The words were simple, yet heavy, like a warning disguised as a question. The bullies froze for a moment. One of them muttered under his breath, "Who is this guy?" But he got no answer. Steven didn't need to speak more. His very presence spoke volumes. If you were watching this in real life, would you step in or stay back? Comment below, and tell me which city or country you're watching from right now. The bullies, unsure now, began circling slower, their confidence wavering. One whispered, "Maybe he's crazy, or maybe he's stronger than he looks." But no one dared to test him further. The air crackled with tension. Everyone could sense that this wasn't going to be an ordinary street fight. The balance of power had shifted, even if the bullies didn't realize it yet. Steven remained composed, silent, but fully aware of every movement around him. The crowd, now fully invested, held its collective breath. Cameras were recording, phones were live streaming, and the whispers spread through the crowd. Something's about to happen, and it's going to be incredible. In that moment, the bullies' bravado began to falter. The audience watching, both on the street and through their screens, could feel it. The ordinary man standing before them was anything but ordinary. What happens next will shock everyone around, and the bullies have no idea what's coming. The city street seemed to hold its breath. The bullies, initially confident, now hesitated as Steven Seagal remained calm in the center of their circle. Every shove, every mocking word, had failed to provoke a reaction. His posture was relaxed but precise, like a predator that didn't need to move to command attention. To the onlookers, it was both mesmerizing and terrifying. "Come on, old man. Say something," one of the bullies jeered, taking a step closer. He shoved Steven in the shoulder harder this time, expecting to see pain or fear. But Steven simply adjusted his stance, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift that suggested readiness. The move was so fluid that only those paying close attention noticed. The crowd around them murmured nervously. Phones were out, cameras recording the escalating drama. A young man in the crowd whispered, "Is he waiting for them to make the first move?" Others nodded, sensing something extraordinary in Steven's calm. The bullies, however, misread the quiet as weakness. "Yeah, he's scared," one said, nudging another. They laughed, trying to hide the flicker of doubt creeping into their eyes. Then, one of the braver bullies squared up and jabbed his fist toward Steven's chest. "Fight me. Show me you've got something," he shouted. The words were full of arrogance, but underneath, uncertainty seeped through. The bullies were testing him, pushing their luck. But Steven didn't respond verbally. He didn't flinch. He merely tilted his head slightly, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses, giving the faintest hint that he was fully aware of their intentions. The crowd tensed. Whispers rippled. "Something's wrong. He's not just standing there. He's waiting, watching." Every person present could feel it. The energy in the air shifted. This wasn't going to be a simple scuffle. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the inevitable, knowing it could erupt at any second. Steven finally spoke, his voice calm, yet commanding. "Do you really want to do this?" The words were soft, almost polite, but they carried the weight of authority. The bully froze, unsure of whether he had misjudged the man in front of him. A bead of sweat ran down his temple as his confidence wavered. The bullies began to circle, slower this time. Their bravado had cracked, but they refused to back down completely. One of them whispered, "Maybe he's stronger than he looks. Maybe we should just leave." But peer pressure held them in place. Their fear was masked by forced laughter and posturing. Meanwhile, the crowd grew larger, phones capturing every moment. Some were live streaming, others simply recording for the thrill of seeing a confrontation unfold. Everyone could sense that this wasn't going to end with a simple apology or a walk away. The tension was palpable, like the quiet before a storm. Steven's eyes scanned the circle calmly, reading body language like an open book. Every twitch, every shift of weight from the bullies was noted. His presence alone was commanding respect, or at least fear, without him needing to make a single aggressive move. The bullies were now beginning to realize that their target was no ordinary man. If you were in Steven's place right now, what would you do? Stand your ground or walk away? Comment below, be honest. Suddenly, one of the bullies lunged forward, aiming a wild punch at Steven. But Steven didn't react aggressively. He moved fluidly, stepping aside, letting the punch miss while subtly positioning himself. The crowd gasped. It was a small move, almost elegant, but it sent a clear message. Steven was fully capable, fully aware, and fully in control. The bullies froze mid-step, eyes wide. They could sense it now. This man wasn't scared, and he wasn't ordinary. Their bravado faltered, replaced with fear and uncertainty. The whispers from the crowd grew louder. "That's not just calm. He's deadly." Steven's posture remained relaxed, but the subtle tension in his body was enough to radiate dominance. The bullies were trapped in a moment of indecision, unsure whether to retreat, attack again, or admit defeat. The street had become a stage for a showdown that had not yet begun, and everyone could feel it. The wind rustled lightly through the trees. The city sounds muted in the intensity of the moment. Cameras continued to roll, capturing the slow-burning suspense. Every spectator, both near and streaming online, felt the gravity of what was about to unfold. As the bullies hesitated, one more voice from the crowd whispered, "Do you even know who you're messing with?" The words barely registered with the bullies, but the doubt had fully taken root. And in that moment, the balance had shifted. The bullies were no longer the confident aggressors. They were trapped, unsure of what would happen next, completely under Steven's silent control. What the bullies don't realize yet is that the man standing before them is more than just calm. He's a deadly martial artist. And soon, they're about to see exactly why you never underestimate Steven Seagal. The tension on the street was almost unbearable. The bullies, once brimming with confidence, now hesitated, their bravado cracking under Steven Seagal's unshakable calm. They circled him, sneering, trying to mask the flicker of doubt creeping into their expressions. Steven remained perfectly still, his hands relaxed at his sides, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, yet every subtle movement conveyed awareness and readiness. Nearby, a bystander leaned closer to a friend, whispering, "Hey, wait a second. That guy looks familiar. Isn't that Steven Seagal?" The words were almost lost in the ambient city noise, but one curious teenager in the crowd tilted his head, squinting. Recognition began to spread slowly. Murmurs rippled outward, growing louder with each passing second. The bullies, too caught up in their own intimidation tactics, didn't immediately register the whispers. "What are they talking about?" one muttered. "Who cares? He's still just some old dude." Yet the subtle shifts in the crowd's attention didn't escape their notice. People were pointing their phones, taking videos, and whispering excitedly. Something was happening, something the bullies didn't understand yet. "Wait, that is Steven Seagal," someone exclaimed, finally loud enough for the entire street to hear. Heads turned, jaws dropped. Some people gasped audibly, others began filming frantically. "The actor, the martial artist," someone shouted. Recognition swept like wildfire through the crowd. The bullies froze. One of them muttered nervously, "No way, this can't be real," but the disbelief didn't last. The legend of Steven Seagal, a man known for his mastery of Aikido and decades of martial arts films, now stood before them, silent, composed, and utterly in control. They had thought they were bullying an easy target, but the reality was undeniable. They had no idea who they were messing with. Steven didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His presence alone commanded respect. He let the moment linger, allowing the crowd to realize who he was. There was no arrogance in his demeanor, no gloating, no threats. Just a calm, almost meditative awareness that spoke louder than words. The tension escalated as one of the bullies, still stubborn, attempted to regain some control. "This doesn't mean anything. He's just an actor," he shouted. But the crowd's energy had shifted. Whispers of admiration for Steven filled the air. "Look at him, so calm, so confident. This is going to get intense." Every subtle movement Steven made, a slight shift of weight, a slow, deliberate step backward, communicated precision, control, and readiness. The bullies could feel it now, even if they couldn't name it. Their bravado was gone, their nerves frayed. The crowd, sensing the imminent climax, pressed closer, phones recording every angle. Then Steven spoke, his voice calm but sharp, like a whisper cutting through steel. "You don't want to find out what happens if you continue this." The words were simple, but every syllable carried authority. The bullies, though still trying to save face, now hesitated, unsure whether to back down or continue. A bystander, almost unable to contain excitement, shouted, "Watch carefully, everyone. He's not just any guy. He's Steven Seagal, martial artist. Deadly." The crowd erupted in whispers and murmurs, anticipation building to a fever pitch. Cameras captured the growing fear in the bullies' eyes. Their overconfidence had evaporated, replaced by shock and unease. One of the bullies took a step back, nervously glancing at his friends. "Maybe we should just leave," he whispered, but peer pressure kept them frozen. Their earlier laughter was gone. It was replaced by tense silence, broken only by the faint hum of the city and the whispers of the crowd. Steven's calm dominance had changed the entire dynamic. The crowd sensed the inevitable. A confrontation was coming, and it would be swift, precise, and unstoppable. The bullies, realizing for the first time that they were outmatched, tried to regain composure, but the moment had passed. Recognition had shifted everything. The bullies thought they could intimidate him. Now they know they've awakened a deadly force. And Steven Seagal is about to show them why you never underestimate a master of martial arts. The city street seemed to vibrate with anticipation. The bullies, once loud and aggressive, now stood frozen, faces pale, eyes darting nervously between each other and Steven Seagal. The murmurs from the crowd had grown into audible gasps. Recognition of who Steven was and what he could do was spreading like wildfire. The once confident teenagers were suddenly unsure, their bravado replaced with fear. Steven remained perfectly calm, his stance fluid but grounded, each foot planted with quiet precision. He didn't move hastily, he didn't shout. He merely observed, his dark sunglasses reflecting the shifting streetlights. The quiet intensity in his gaze made it clear that any reckless action would have consequences. The air felt heavier, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Finally, Steven spoke. His voice was soft, but carried a weight that seemed to vibrate through the tense crowd. "You've made your choice to confront me," he said slowly, deliberately. "I suggest you reconsider before continuing. Violence has consequences for all of you." The words were calm, almost conversational, but their effect was immediate. The bullies hesitated, exchanging nervous glances. One tried to laugh, masking his fear with bravado. "We don't care who you are," he shouted. "We're not scared of some actor." Steven shifted slightly, a movement so subtle most people might have missed it if they weren't watching closely. His hand brushed against his side, his weight pivoted gently, and a calm yet unmistakable demonstration of martial readiness became visible, a pose from his Aikido training. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't threatening, but it was enough to convey mastery. Every muscle was relaxed, yet every motion radiated control. The crowd gasped, phones raised, capturing the moment from multiple angles. Some onlookers whispered, "Did you see that? He's ready." And he didn't even touch them. The energy in the street shifted again. The bullies' confidence cracked further. Their laughter faltered, replaced by doubt. They were no longer the hunters. They were prey, though they didn't fully comprehend the danger yet. One of the bolder bullies, unwilling to back down completely, lunged forward slightly, testing Steven's reaction. Steven moved with fluid precision, a small sidestep, a gentle redirection of momentum, and the bully stumbled slightly off balance. No force was used beyond what was necessary. The demonstration was purely about control. The crowd erupted in murmurs and whispers. Wow. He didn't even touch him fully, and the guy's already on edge," one bystander said. Another muttered, "This is how you know he's deadly." The tension in the air was electric. Everyone watching could sense that any further aggression from the bullies would end in disaster for them. Steven's eyes scanned the group, noting the shifts in posture, the widening of eyes, the trembling fingers. "This is your warning," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Continue down this path, and the outcome will be entirely your responsibility." The bullies froze completely. Their bravado had evaporated. One muttered under his breath, "We shouldn't have done this," another whispered. "I knew we messed up." They looked to each other, realizing the street wasn't just witnessing intimidation. It was witnessing the quiet demonstration of a lethal martial artist. The crowd, meanwhile, was buzzing with excitement and fear. Some raised their phones, live streaming, as the tension reached a fever pitch. Whispers of admiration mixed with disbelief. "He's incredible, so calm, so in control." The atmosphere was taut, every second stretching longer than the last. The bullies' energy had completely shifted. Their laughter was gone, replaced by tension, uncertainty, and a creeping sense of dread. They had learned, perhaps too late, that the man standing before them was no ordinary target. He was a master, and he had already shown them the first warning of what could happen if they crossed the line. The bullies thought they could intimidate him. Now they know they've awakened a force they cannot challenge, and soon, they'll witness exactly why Steven Seagal is considered a deadly martial artist. The air was electric, the street crackling with tension. The bullies, now pale-faced and nervous, exchanged hesitant glances, realizing too late that they had underestimated the man before them. Every ounce of their bravado had vanished, replaced by unease and fear. They had no idea what they were truly facing. Steven Seagal remained perfectly calm, his posture relaxed but unmistakably commanding. Every subtle movement spoke volumes. Each shift of weight, each controlled breath, radiated focus and mastery. The crowd around them grew larger, phones raised, recording every tense moment, whispers spreading like wildfire. This is it. He's going to show them who he really is. One of the bullies, refusing to back down completely, lunged forward. His fist shot toward Steven, but Steven didn't flinch. With an almost imperceptible sidestep, he redirected the attack, using the bully's momentum against him. The motion was smooth, precise, and non-lethal, a perfect demonstration of Aikido technique. The bully stumbled forward, off balance, and collapsed lightly onto the pavement. The crowd gasped. Another bully, now panicking, tried to grab Steven from behind, thinking he could catch him off guard. Steven twisted his body with effortless grace, simultaneously redirecting the assailant's momentum while gently guiding him to the ground. Neither bully was injured. It was a controlled, almost artistic display of martial skill. Yet the effect was undeniable. The bullies were completely neutralized, stunned, and humiliated. The remaining bullies froze. Their confidence had evaporated entirely. Steven's presence alone, combined with his flawless control, had shifted the power dynamic completely. One whispered shakily, I think we messed up. Another tried to hide behind his friends, but it was too late. The lesson had already been delivered. The crowd erupted in cheers, applause, and excited whispers. Did you see that? Someone shouted. He didn't even hit them hard, and they're down. Others pointed their phones, capturing every angle. The energy in the street was electric, a mix of awe and disbelief. Steven's reputation as a master martial artist had been proven not by aggression, but by precise, controlled skill. Steven finally addressed the bullies in his calm, commanding voice. Enough. Violence should never be used carelessly. Respect is earned, not taken by force. You have a choice. Learn from this, or continue down the wrong path. The bullies hung their heads, ashamed. Some muttered apologies. Others simply stared at the ground, too stunned to speak. Steven didn't gloat, didn't raise his voice. He simply stood, a figure of composed authority and restraint. The crowd sensed the lesson. Strength wasn't about domination. It was about control, wisdom, and integrity. If you were watching this in real life, would you forgive these bullies for underestimating him? Or do you think they should face consequences? Type yes for forgiveness or no for consequences. The street slowly settled. Phones stopped recording, though some continued to stream live. Whispers of admiration floated through the crowd. He's incredible, so calm, so deadly. Some speculated about his career, others about his martial arts mastery. Everyone had seen a real-life demonstration of discipline and skill, a moment that would linger in their memory long after the bullies had slunk away. Steven gave one last controlled glance at the defeated bullies, then turned and walked away. His steps were steady, unhurried, and perfectly composed, as though the incident had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience in his day. The crowd watched him leave, still buzzing with excitement, phones still raised, capturing the legend as he faded into the city streets. The bullies were left to process the lesson. Intimidation and aggression could never triumph over calm skill, control, and intelligence. The moment had been recorded, photographed, and shared, destined to reach thousands online. A testament to what happens when someone underestimates a true master. As Steven disappeared down the street, the crowd began to disperse, still talking, still sharing clips on their phones. The story of the confrontation, the calm showdown, and the display of deadly martial arts would spread far and wide. The world saw it all. The bullies learned their lesson, but the story didn't end there. Steven's message of control, respect, and humility would now go viral. The city street had returned to its usual rhythm, but the energy of the confrontation lingered in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. The bullies, humiliated and shaken, had scattered, leaving behind a trail of whispered astonishment. Their confidence had been shattered, replaced by an understanding that the man they had tried to intimidate was far more than he appeared. Phones continued to record, and within hours, clips of the showdown began circulating online. Social media accounts shared videos, slow-motion analyses, and stunned commentary. The quiet, controlled power of Steven Seagal had captured the attention of viewers around the world. The hashtags #Steven Seagal, #MartialArtsMaster, and #StreetShowdown began trending. Millions of people were watching, commenting, and sharing their awe at the calm but decisive display of skill and restraint. News outlets picked up the story. Headlines read, "Steven Seagal neutralizes bullies with calm precision, and martial arts master shows the true meaning of strength." Videos went viral on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Comment sections overflowed with admiration, with viewers praising Steven's ability to maintain composure under pressure while teaching a lesson without unnecessary violence. Fans and martial arts enthusiasts dissected the footage, pointing out the subtle Aikido techniques Steven had used. Some marveled at the efficiency of his movements, the control he displayed, and the psychological mastery of his calm presence. Others celebrated the moral lesson embedded in the encounter, that strength and skill are meaningless without discipline, and intimidation cannot stand against wisdom. The bullies themselves faced public embarrassment. Videos circulated in their schools, neighborhoods, and communities. They learned firsthand that arrogance and aggression could never triumph over mastery and self-control. Meanwhile, the crowd that had witnessed the event firsthand shared their experiences online, further fueling the viral spread. Steven Seagal, however, remained humble. In interviews, he addressed the incident with his signature calm authority. "I hold no anger toward them. I hope they learn respect and self-control. Strength without discipline is dangerous, and anyone can make mistakes. The lesson here is simple: respect each other, always." His words resonated deeply with viewers worldwide. People praised his humility, contrasting it with the arrogance of the bullies. The incident became more than a viral spectacle. It became a story of character, composure, and the quiet power of mastery. Engagement soared across platforms. Viewers debated what they would have done in Steven's place, shared their own encounters with bullies, and expressed admiration for his discipline. The story sparked conversations about respect, self-control, and the true meaning of strength, lessons far beyond the initial street confrontation. Even months later, the video remained widely viewed and shared. Martial arts schools used clips as teaching examples of control, focus, and technique. Fans created reaction videos and compilations, highlighting Steven's composure and precision. The story had transcended a single street incident. It had become a global lesson in respect and mastery. If you believe no one should be underestimated or bullied, type respect in the comments. Share this story, and subscribe for more incredible real-life stories that inspire courage, discipline, and integrity. The street that had once witnessed tension, fear, and uncertainty now stood as the silent stage for a lesson the world wouldn't soon forget. Steven Seagal walked away, calm and unbothered, leaving behind a story of quiet dominance, discipline, and the undeniable power of respect. And in every corner of the globe where the story was watched, shared, and celebrated, people remembered one truth: strength without humility is empty, but humility backed by mastery commands respect. The incident, captured in video and memory, ensured that the bullies' actions were never forgotten, and that Steven Seagal's name would be remembered not just as a movie star, but as a living demonstration of martial skill, calm authority, and integrity.